Bob Patton Jr., and he's the manager of our Superfund section. And up here front is Danny Sapman-Soul. She's our project manager. We have Mary Reisner, our site attorney. Lindsay Jones, toxicologist. And I would also like to introduce Michelle Bost and Tina Walker, who are here from the Texas Department of State Health Services. I'd like to thank them both so much for being with us here tonight. And I would like to recognize again your County Commissioner, Luis Sanchez, and thank him for arranging for us to use his facility, and thank Midland County for hosting us here at the Midland County Texas. So the TCEQ's objective tonight for this meeting is to provide you with information about the hexavalent chromium groundwater plume that was recently discovered in the area around West County Road 112. So we're going to begin with a presentation by Bob Patton and Lindsay Jones, and we're going to talk about hexavalent chromium, its health effects, TCEQ's actions to date, and what our next steps are going to be. And then we're going to open the floor to your questions and comments. But before I turn this over to Bob, I do want to let you know that we are making an audio recording of tonight's meeting. So if you want a copy of the recording, there is an order form in the back of the meeting handout. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob.
Thank you, Kelly. I'd like to start out again by thanking Commissioner Sanchez. Being able to facilitate or be able to get us this facility as quick as we got it. And it's a great facility, it fits us, and we've got a good crowd. So thank you for coming out. I'd also like to point out another thing. We've had the opportunity to move pretty quick out here. I know some people don't think that, but we have. We have moved really fast. The main reason for that is the cooperation and help we've gotten from y'all. And that is the main reason we are where we are at this time. So we appreciate that. We've been up and down your streets every week for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and we've met a lot of you. You let us in your homes. You provided us access to your wells, and that has allowed us to be able to expedite this at the speed that we've done it. And that's all due to y'all's credit. And normally, or sometimes we don't get that type of help, and we're hoping that we can foster that relationship and continue to do that as we continue to sample out past the areas where we are right now. So after that, like Kelly said, we are going to explain to you or talk to you about where we currently are, what our plans are. We're going to look at a site map, and then we're going to give you some places you can go to get more information. All right, how did we get involved? And we're going to dim the lights a little here because we've got a site map that's going to show up better with the lights down. Well, the TCEQ was involved because we were notified back in early April. First notified on March 30th, and in early April, we were able to get out and collect one groundwater sample from a person's well, and that sample came back above the maximum contaminant levels for hexavalent chromium. And due to that, we put a filter on that well the following week, and by law, we're required to send out notification letters of an infected well within a quarter mile of that area. We issued those letters, started making contact with people, and asked for access agreements so that we get allowed on your property to collect samples from your wells. And since then, we have moved on and been able to get to people's homes. A lot of people are asking what chromium is. Out here, the main thing chromium is used for is plating. It has a lot of different uses. It's a natural occurring element. It can be made into chromium, chromium 3, chromium 6. The one we're dealing with out here is chromium 6, also known as hexavalent chromium. Like I mentioned earlier, the main use out here is for plating, drilling, and that type of equipment. And now I'm going to turn this over to Lindsay for a second.
appreciative I've been of your generosity and your hospitality, and how much I appreciate the opportunity to come back here and talk to you again tonight. In my discussions with many of you, there's been a lot of concern about the health effects that chromium can cause. As you know, several people here in your own neighborhood have been using water that is above the level that the EPA says is safe. But before I get into the health effects, I wanted to quickly mention a few things. Number one, and this may sound very simple, but to have chromium cause health effects in your body, you actually have to have direct contact with the chromium in the water. So for some of you who have maybe stopped drinking your water in the last few years, you're probably not going to have a lot of the effects that I'm going to talk about tonight. The second thing is that TCEQ has been working very fast trying to get filters on those wells that do have water above the maximum contaminant level. And for some of the effects that I'm going to be talking about tonight, those effects can clear up as we take the chromium out of the water. So having said that, chromium can cause some issues in your body. When you drink or eat water, or when you drink or eat chromium, it can cause gastrointestinal effects, meaning nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain. And it can adversely affect your blood by causing anemia or inflame your liver. And you'll notice that I put on the slide that this occurs when you've had contact with the water for several years at a high concentration. And I want to quickly draw your attention to the greater than 8,000 parts per billion. And I want to put that in perspective. The highest concentration that we've seen here in the neighborhood is 5,250 parts per billion. So as you can see, this is quite a bit above what we have here in the neighborhood. If some of these concerns look familiar to you, or you have concerns about that, the absolute best thing that you can do is talk to your personal physician. I have been talking to many of you, and please feel free to call me anytime you have a question, but your physician is best able to help treat any kind of condition that you may have. And if you would like help talking to your physician, please let me know. The second concern that many people have talked to me about is bathing. Hexavalent chromium in the water can cause skin irritation. Your skin can become red and itchy. For people with sensitive skin, it can cause allergic contact dermatitis. These skin effects if they are caused by the chromium, will actually go away once you stop using the chromium. In fact, studies have shown that when you take in chromium into your body by eating it or drinking it, the chromium can leave your body within about a week. The other thing that people are concerned about is whether or not it is safe to shower in water that is contaminated with hexavalent chromium. I can tell you that there is one study that has addressed this problem. They actually looked at how much chromium can come from the water coming down through the shower, how much of it gets kicked up in the steam where you would be breathing. And yes, hexavalent chromium can come up in that steam, but the study shows that not enough of it is kicked up to cause any kind of health effects. So if your water is below the maximum contaminant level, you should not have any health effects. And probably the biggest concern that the residents have raised to me is whether or not hexavalent chromium can cause cancer. When hexavalent chromium is inhaled in through your mouth or your nose, into your lungs, hexavalent chromium, yes, in fact, can cause cancer. It is a known human carcinogen. But this has been documented in occupational studies. These are people that are basically working 40 plus hours a week for several years on end, right next to the source of hexavalent chromium. These are very high concentrations. And the reason I'm explaining this to you is that this is a very different scenario than what we have here in the neighborhood. What we do have in the neighborhood is people drinking the water. And chromium is still not classified as a carcinogen when it's taken in your water or in your food. So the newest studies do show some increased risk of tumors when see animals taken a very high concentration of chromium. And I want to quickly go through this with you. In rats and in mice, when they are exposed to 84,000 parts per billion, there was an increased risk of small intestinal tumors. In the dose group of 206,000 parts per billion, there were excuse me, there were